Hey kiddos, in this video we're going to cover some test taking skills that will help you as you get into standardized testing similar to I-STEP. And so these skills will help you perform your best and do well on these tests. So some of the first strategies for taking tests. Be sure you get a good night's sleep the night before a test. And make sure you eat a good breakfast before you take the test. And those are two important skills that a lot of people overlook. And then arrive on time the day of the test. You don't want to be rushing in and be disorganized or frazzled when you arrive at the test. Bring everything that you need to bring, such as sharpened pencils. Make sure you get those sharpened well before the test starts so that you're ready to go. And then when you're given the test, look it over and plan how you're going to use your time. Don't just dive right in and start taking it. So the first step you should do is look over the test. You should skim the test to look at what different kinds of questions are going to be asked. And then give yourself a certain amount of time to complete each section so that you can plan out and you're not caught at the end scrambling trying to get it finished. So if you look at it and maybe even answer the simplest questions first to make sure you get those out of the way, and then go back. Some people use that strategy, but however you do it, you should plan according to the time that you have available and not just go 1 to 100 and hope that you get through in the time allotted. If the test allows for it, you should use scratch paper to write down notes, ideas, workout formulas, different things like that. Don't be afraid to use scrap paper to make some notes for yourself as you work through the tests. It's a good idea to answer longer essay questions first, because those will take the majority of your time. They'll also be weighted the heaviest as far as your score. So you should look at longer essay questions and answer those first. You should concentrate on one question at a time and not get overwhelmed by the whole test and thinking of forward or back to questions. You should just focus on each question and answer each question to the best of your ability. You should read all directions thoroughly and follow them. And then it's a good idea when you go back through the test to reread the directions and make sure you met them. And make sure that each step is followed. Don't forget to use your 5-paragraph format for the extended writing questions, because that is a valuable skill to help you organize your work so that it makes sense when you put it on paper. And outline or use other pre-writing strategies to organize your thoughts before you begin writing. Just like any writing, don't just sit down and start scrambling to write something in just because you have a limited amount of time. Take a few minutes to outline or use pre-writing to organize yourself, and it'll make you much more efficient when you do begin writing the actual question. And then proofread your answers. Hopefully you'll have time, but make sure you've answered every question possible. Make sure you followed all directions. And if you have time, reread through the test and re-answer questions if you need to, and check work if you need to, but kind of just look at it from a different perspective. Don't overthink yourself and overthink into different answers, but reread everything. Make sure you caught anything that you need to worry about. And then, since there's different kinds of questions, familiarize yourself with the different types of questions so that you know exactly what is being asked. And think of how the question is written to help you make sure you answer it. So for instance, multiple choice, when you answer a multiple choice question, you know you have the correct answer in front of you, but it's a good idea to try to answer the question how you would answer before you look at the choices. Then when you look at the choices, if you see the answer that you came up with, then you have a good idea that could be the correct answer. However, on some standardized tests, they do set trap questions in there that the most common incorrect answer is usually one of the first choices, so that if you immediately jump to an answer and you see it right there and pick it, that's a trap they set you in to see if you're really focused and paying attention. If you're allowed to write on the test, you should cross out answers that you know are not correct, and that helps you narrow down choices, especially when you don't know for sure the correct answer. It helps you narrow out choices and increase your odds of getting it correct. And be sure to read all choices before choosing an answer. Sometimes a choice may sound correct, but there's another choice that's even more correct. So make sure you read through all the choices and think them through before you choose that answer. For short answer or essay questions, you should leave yourself plenty of time and space to answer these questions. You should read over the questions carefully and look for keywords. And that's what I meant by reading the question and understanding what they're asking for. So words like discuss, or identify, or explain have different meanings, and you need to understand what the question is asking for so that you make sure you answer it correctly. Make sure you pay attention to how many answers the question is looking for. And that's a simple thing. Usually essay questions look for 3 body points because it's a 5-paragraph essay. Sometimes they may ask for more. But if it says list 3 ideas, you need to make sure you cut that number 3 and list 3 ideas. So make sure you pay attention to how many answers the question is looking for. And look over the test to see how much space you have. They usually give you more space than you need, but if you see it's only a few lines, they aren't looking for a larger answer, as opposed to if it's a whole page of lines, they're looking for a significant answer. So you need to know how many lines you have available and what kind of quality of answer they're looking for. Now if you fill in more than the available space, that's fine, but just be aware that if you're filling in significantly more than the available space, then you're probably over answering the question. And make sure you do not include unrelated information that is not necessary to answer the question. So the reading comprehension questions, when you're working on reading comprehension, as you've seen before, you will be given a passage to read and then questions that follow it to see how well you've comprehended what you've read. I recommend you look at the questions first to see what they're going to be looking to answer. That doesn't mean you're not going to read the passage, but look at the questions first and see what they're looking for. Then browse the selection and see if you can quickly answer some of the questions right away. Keep in mind, though, as we talked about trap answers, they do the same thing on reading comprehension. They may ask a question in a way that if you just browse the reading and don't pay close attention, you might pick the wrong answer just because that looks right off the top of your head. So be aware of trap answers, but see if any of the reading comprehension questions are simple enough to answer quickly with a quick browse. Then you read the entire passage. And if the test allows you to write on it, again, you should underline main points in the passage that you think would help you in answering the questions later. And then then you go through and answer your questions, obviously. And then if you have time after reading the passage and completing the questions, you should read the passage again at a little bit slower pace, and make sure you're catching everything that you need to catch. So those are some simple tips to help you test take better for our upcoming I-step testing. And so use those skills, review them right before we go into testing, and it will help you show your best on these tests.